LDAP using Java. So to perform LDAP, that is lightweight directory access protocol operation using Java, you typically use JNDI API, that is Java naming and directory interface. So this allows Java application to interact with directory services such as Active Directory, Open LDAP, or Apache Directory Services. So you can have a common LDAP operation using Java, that is like you can connect a LDAP server, authenticate users, or search entries, add or modify or delete entries as well. So for configuring LDAP system into your project, first you need to add dependencies. So for Maven project, you can add this dependency, but in most cases, JNDI is part of JDK itself. So before connecting, make sure what port you are using. So if you are going with a secure LDAP, you can use 636 port. Otherwise, you can go for 389, which is a non-secure port. So again, if you are using a secure LDAP, and you need to add this into your hash table, that is security portal, that is SSL. And to build LDAP server in local system, you can use Apache Directory Studio. Again, it's for a testing purpose and all. So I already made a separate video for how to create a LDAP server locally using Apache Directory Studio. And let's see the steps to establish LDAP connectivity using Java. So first you need to import required packages or classes. That is, you need to use a context, naming exception, directory context, and initial directory context. So you need to import classes from javax.naming and javax.naming.directory. So and this is hash table util, so you can this is just a collection framework. So then set up environmental properties, like hash means you can create a properties through a hash table. So add all the required properties like URL and what is the authentication type, DN, and credentials like username and passwords. So first that is a context factory, that is LDAP context factory. Then the complete URL, LDAP localhost means if you have a server, you can add a server here, and the port means port, as I mentioned, if it is secure, you need to use 636, otherwise 389 is enough. So then authentication type is simple, like again based on your authentication type, you can use or you can pass the required authentication, then username and password. The next step will be creating initial directory. So once you get all the environment properties, pass it to initial directory context, create the directory context object, like create the context object. So once it is done, you can do the rest of the required operation, like searching the user, creating a user, get a group details and all, you can do it. So we have some classes and interfaces. So as I mentioned, like one will be the interface for a directory context. First, you need to create a directory context using initial context. Like again, pass all the parameters and build the context first. So that is like a directory context, like extending interface of context, like use it for accessing directory services. So use cases will be like allows modification and search of directory entries. Using this context itself, you can modify or you can do the required LDAP operations. So it is an example which you already seen. So first pass the required properties. Then using the context, you can get the attributes or you can do required operations. Then initial context, like it's entry point for LDAP operation, which implements directory context, and use cases will be create an LDAP context with environment settings. So first you need to build the hash table and you need to pass that hash table to initial directory context. Then we have attributes and attribute interfaces, which represents the directory entry attributes. So use cases like read, modify, or search for specific attributes. That is like if you want to get a specific attribute like email, username, password, whatever it is, using attribute, you can get that. Like first you need to get the all the attributes for required user. Then using that attributes, you can get a single attribute. Then search control, so which defines the search constraint like scope and attributes to return. So what is the scope? Like if you want to get the subtree and all, means you need to pass the scope level what you are doing. And then means first you need to create a search control object. Then using that object you can set the scope and what are the attributes you need to retrieve. So that you can pass as a list or array of a string. Then naming enumeration. So it's an interface, helps to iterate for search results. So whatever the search you have you want to do, you can do it using naming enumeration. So using context, you'll get the search details and like what are the means where you want to search, whether you want to search for a user, you can add filters and all here. So pass the required details using dot search, context dot search, you can get the naming enumeration interface. Like you can get the object, then using that again you can iterate over that result and you can get the required details like attributes, attribute and all. Search result like represents a single LDAP search result. So get name or attributes of matching LDAP entries. So let's see everything in Eclipse now. So here is an example. Let me clear the old result. So what I am doing in main class or main method is first I am building the connection. So I have get connection method, get user info method and get group info method. So in get connection method, I'm getting directory context. So I'll be creating a hash table. So I have LDAP context, factory username and password and LDAP URL. So all these things will be added into hash table. So these are environmental settings. So LDAP context, URL, simple authentication type, username and password. Then I'll be passing the initial directory context. So once I get the directory context, using that context, I will be getting user info. So here base DN, the whole means user OU. Then what are the user you want to get? I'm getting the single user here and the directory context I'm passing. So inside user get user info method, what I'm doing is first I'm creating filter. So these are the attributes I'll be retrieving, that is employee number, title and CN. So the filter will be UID equals past URL, sorry, past UID and search control. So the search control set returning attributes. So what I am doing is, as I mentioned, I'll be getting employee number, title, CN, given name. Then the scope, search scope will be two levels. So then naming enumeration, as I mentioned, once we get the context, use a search method to get or get the naming enumeration or get the result by passing the base OU, that is user OU, filter and search controls. Then we get the result, we will iterate over it. So once you get the naming enumeration, you can iterate over it. So using has next or has more elements. So then in the search result, I'll be getting the result. Using that search result, I will be getting the attributes or attribute. So here get the attributes. Here we'll get all the attributes for searched result. So if it is user, I will get all the users details. If it is group, I will get the all user or all the group details. So here you can see the method. Using that attributes, I will get the employee number. So dot get, if it is null, if it is not null, then get the value and convert it to string. Otherwise, pass empty value. Same for title and CN. So using attributes, I'll get the title, and again with attributes, I'll get the CN. So you can assign it to attribute as well. So in group cases, I'll be doing that. So once I get the result, I will be printing the details. If there is no naming enumeration, I will saying user is not present. In case of get group info, same thing. I'll be getting members. Filter will be CN equals past CN. Then I'll be creating search controls. Then for that, I'll be adding returning attributes and a scope. Then using naming enumeration, I'll be searching the details. Means I'll search the detail, I'll be assigning it to naming enumeration. And I'm iterating over the results or values. So search result getting the answer for each value or each iteration. I'll assign it to search result. Using search result, I'll be getting attributes. So and all the attributes will be stored to attributes. Now using that, I'll be getting required attribute. So again, you can do it through, like as I mentioned, you can get it through attribute, and you can do naming enumeration. Like again, if you want to get or if you want to use a naming enumeration, you have to do like this. There are two approaches. One, you can get directly, otherwise you can get like this as well. So this is like I'll be getting through attribute, then I'll using that attribute I am doing search or get all the details for that particular attribute, then assigning it to naming enumeration and iterating that enumeration. So here the same thing, get a unique member, and if there is a value for it, assign it to that and convert it to string or empty string. So if there is no search result, say that like group is not present. Let me execute this. So you can see the past value was like RD RA303. So the name is Dravid Rahul. Then employee number is this, and this is the title. And the group detail is admin, and the member is this. So this is how you can utilize JNDI to connect to LDAP system or LDAP server and retrieve required details. Thanks for watching.